You ever did something and looked back and wondered, was I wrong for that? Was I an asshole? Well, today is such a day for yours truly. I'd invite you to judge me in the comments. Let me know if I got this one wrong. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim with another ride sharing video. Now, make no secret about it, I also have a day job. And today during lunch, I decided to treat myself a bit. I went to Olive Garden. Decided to sit down for a nice plate of fettuccine alfredo with a little bit of seafood thrown in. I made the waitress work. Ended up having a couple extra drinks, requiring the waitress to come back to the table twice. Also asked for a glass of ice water before I left. But before I got my main entree, I enjoyed a nice bowl of chicken gnocchi soup, and I asked for a second helping, leaving a lot of my fettuccine alfredo in carryout so I could bring it home. But here is the gist of the story. Now, my bill came up to almost 40 bucks. On the line where you are allowed to tip, I put 0. And drew a slash through it to make sure it was unmistakably the numeric version of a 0. No denying it was a 0 on the tip line. Did I get bad service? No, not at all. In fact, the food was scrumptious. The soup was hot, plenty of chicken gnocchi and chicken particles in my soup. Mwah! The food was delicious. The waitress comes to the table. Once I give her my credit card, she runs the price and notices on the receipt there is this big ass 0 in the tipping line. Now, they obviously cannot solicit tips or voice any vocal concerns with patrons who do not tip. But she clearly looked at me while holding that receipt to say, what the hell is this? How could you sit down and have a $40 meal and not tip me at all? But she didn't say anything. She just kind of stared at me funny. That was my time to act. So I looked at her and I asked her, I said, did you take an Uber or Lyft to work yesterday? And she was like, yeah. Now, I didn't remember. We all drive for both Uber and Lyft. For you folks who are not rideshare drivers, most rideshare drivers drive for both Uber and Lyft. So I didn't remember which app was used to get this woman to work. But when she replied, yes, I did catch an Uber to work. What about it? And I looked her up and down, looked her dead in the eye, shook my head back and forth and said, I drove you. And you didn't tip me anything. Instantly, she knew what the hell I was talking about, handed me the receipt, turned around and left. Was I an asshole? Was I wrong for giving this same woman the exact same tip she gave yours truly? Now, make no mistake about it, we all know in the waitress business, in the restaurant business, the employees work for tips. 40 bucks. You're talking 15, 20%. I generally would have tipped about $8 on $40. I generally tip 2 for every 10. So she would have received an additional $8 on that 40, which all goes in her pocket. It's $8. $8 is $8. But as I stated, I didn't get tipped a thing, and I was the one that drove her to work. So was I wrong? I had the option to tip her whatever I want. She also had the option through the app to tip yours truly, and she chose not to. Now, obviously, we know sometimes Uber and Lyft can steal tips and all kinds of other bullshit happens. She didn't argue that. She didn't argue and say, yeah, I did leave you a tip or something like that. Most likely, this woman gets a ride to and from work every day via rideshare, and she does not tip on. That is what she usually does. That's her method of operation. She probably does not tip many of her drivers. So what do you think? By the way, what types of passengers that you deal with that are more likely to tip? Generally, for yours truly, it is folks like her. People who work in industries where they live off tips. I have often found that they are the very few people that tip. Waitresses, folks that work as, hairstylists and barbershop folks, strippers, I've had some of them, bartenders, they do generally tip because they know the value of it. But this woman, no tip at all. And I could see by the look on her face, she knew she was caught dead to rights. There's no need to argue or even sit there and look disappointed about a patron that does not tip when he provided a service to me and I didn't give him shit either. What would you have done if you had a passenger in your vehicle that did not tip you anything, and then the tables were turned where they were serving you, and it was your turn to decide if you were going to tip or not? What would you do? As always, it's your boy Tim. I know I may look like an asshole. Did I get it wrong? Subscribe to the channel. Click the like button. See you in the next video.